Hi, Internet. Rich Stroffolino here from Gestalt IT. It's time once again for the Gestalt IT Rundown, your weekly look at the IT news of the week. Each time we meet, I'm joined by Tom Hollingsworth. Say hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
He's the networking nerd and just a little bit snarky, as you can tell. We're going to go over some of the top news. We're probably not going to talk about CES, which is refreshing if you follow the tech media in any meaningful way this week. I mean, if you really want to, we can talk about terrible mesh routers and TVs and other things that you'll never be able to buy. We're probably going to stick to more IT stuff, if that's okay. So, Tom, one thing I wanted to touch on real quick. We've officially confirmed that we're living in the cryptocurrency bubble. For one, I just saw Dogecoin has a $1 billion valuation. It was, to keep in mind, if you're not familiar with Dogecoin, it was started as a joke. There is no limit to the number of Doge that can be mined, theoretically. I suppose there's a difficulty limit at some level. So there's no scarcity, and it hasn't been developed in like 3-4 years. And the developer of it said, hey, this is not good. Our cryptocurrency should not be worth this much. Also, Kodak mentioned something about doing a cryptocurrency, and their stock's up like 120%. Is there any way to stop the coming crypto bubble apocalypse, Tom?
Well, if it pops, is anybody really going to lose anything? Is there any critical value asset? Well, yeah, there is, because people are pouring money into it. I made this comment today. Everybody that wanted to be involved in this saw what happened to Bitcoin, because 5 years ago, nobody cared about Bitcoin. It was literally a hobby. And then all of a sudden, now that it's 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 a coin, everybody wants in on the next big thing. And it reminds me of Superman Action Comics #1. The book is worth so much money. It has absolutely nothing to do with Superman. It has everything to do with the fact that there are none left. You can't find them, because guess what? People threw them away. It wasn't important until they were nowhere. Bitcoin wasn't valuable when you could just go mine one with a pocket calculator. Bitcoin's only valuable because nobody has them.
It does remind me a little bit of like the baseball card boom, when everyone thought, oh, all my old baseball cards are going to be valuable, and then the market just completely saturated. Like, I think at some point, maybe if there's not even a bubble, maybe Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum, those maybe will hold their value or keep growing or whatever. But there are just so many cryptocurrencies that continue to be out there. What was the one that made the founder of it like the richest man in the world for 5 minutes? It's not Dash, it's Ripple. Is it Ripple? The stupid names. Yeah. Like, I never even heard of that one, and I don't follow it super closely, but whatever. So yeah, we're all living in a crypto boom time. The Great Crypto Depression will be coming soon. So hopefully we'll get a new crypto deal out of it at the end of the day. Other big news, VTech, the company that makes toys that your children didn't really want, and you didn't buy them an Amazon tablet because you didn't want them to be hacked. They got hacked and they got fined. 5 million records were lost for customers, including those of children. It wasn't social security numbers, but addresses, phone numbers, kind of important if you value your children's privacy. Like I said, 5 million records were leaked. So the FTC came down hard on the company and fined them $650,000, working out to a little less than 14 cents per record leak. Tom, in the age of where every company now is worried about GDPR, what kind of signal does it send from the FTC that, I mean, this seems like the lightest slap on the wrist?
This isn't even a slap on the wrist. I think my Apple Watch touches my wrist harder than this was when it sends me notification. This is a sad attempt to hold someone accountable. And honestly, the odds are good whoever was responsible for this is probably gone, because they're off for greener pastures after they sold all their stock in the hope to beat the oncoming stock dip on this. And the sad thing about this is I have one of these devices. I know how big of a pain in the ass it is from a technical perspective to set it up. This version of Windows using that version of Flash, and you have to sign on to download games. They're essentially forcing you to collect all your information. And then they're not even going to be good stewards of it. I mean, seriously, this is at the point now where I know that legally corporations are people, which is why they can get away with a lot of the things that they do. But I think legally the corporation or its responsible officers need to start going to jail for record leaks. I think that there needs to be some kind of teeth instead of fine, because, okay, great, we fined you $1 million. The corporation's going to pay it. They're going to take a tax write-off and a one-time write-down, and the world's going to be a better place. But boy, if you send to Johnny-come-lately CEO to jail for 6 months, and I'm not talking about county lockup. I'm talking about, let's make this a federal crime. I promise you, somebody's going to start being a little bit more careful.
Well, and it does, raise the question as, data increasingly has more value. It's accrued by companies that have more value. Even if like Apple or Amazon or Google have a massive data leak, and the FTC finds them a huge amount of money, like comparable to me or you, like $100 million. For Apple, I mean, that's, oh darn, they can't buy, like they have that cash on hand in the couch cushions.
Yeah.
Will they want to pay it? No, certainly not. But VTech, that might be a lot of money, but 650,000 is nothing. It would be interesting. It also doesn't really signal a lot of confidence coming from the FTC if they're now going to be the ones that are in charge for enforcing net neutrality violations, if this is the kind of slap on the wrist that they're getting for 5 million records leaked. So very interesting. Yeah. Another interesting story. This one, it's kind of tangential to CES, I guess, but it's reported that AT&T is backed out of a deal with Huawei to sell phones, ostensibly with some government pressure or concerns over security on Huawei's behalf. Huawei's had kind of a struggle to get a lot of their networking products in the United States in general for a number of years. I know that government contractors can't use their stuff, again, due to security concerns with China. But now definitely hitting the consumer market, what seemed to be a done deal and really kind of screwing up Huawei's plans. Do they have any, we've talked about Huawei and kind of the struggles of American companies moving into China. Is this going to be the habitual problem as, these giant Chinese tech companies, Huawei, Xiaomi, Alibaba, try and make more of a footprint in the US?
Yeah, I think it will be. It's twofold. One, it's retaliation for the way that American companies are treated when they're in China. That's totally kind of a tit for tat thing. But also, I mean, we still are dealing with the specter of, well, what happens when these phones or these routers or something have a secret covert back channel? And people kind of like laugh, oh, that's just some kind of crazy conspiracy theory. Okay, prove it. Huawei needs to publish the entire specs. They need to put code in escrow with the government that can be reviewed under confidentiality agreements to prove that there is no covert back channel. If you can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that you're not secretly sending telemetry somewhere that it's not supposed to go, that's perfectly okay. But if you're not willing to submit to that, you're going to have to be willing to submit to the court of public opinion.
Code in escrow is probably like one of the scariest phrases. It's like the most dystopian phrase, but also I don't see any other way around it, right?
No, and other companies have had to do this for years. I know that a lot of the companies who do business with three-letter agencies that don't really exist, they have to provide special code escrow accounts, and those guys get to go over them with a fine-tooth comb, and that's the only way you get to put a router at the DIA or the NSA or something like that.
So another big news item. This one kind of came at me by surprise the other day. I saw it in my news feed. The Wi-Fi Alliance has come up with a successor to the WPA2 security standard, creatively named WPA3. This will now, Tom, you've read a little bit of the spec, I understand.
I have, yes, actually. It's kind of interesting. This is essentially an answer to all of the black eye problems. Now let's be frank about this. When you say, oh, well, WPA2 is horribly insecure and I don't know why people are still using it. It's 14 years old. That's quite a bit older than my son, who turns 12 today. Hi, Alex. The problem is that it was built for a time where we didn't have the ability to do massive parallel processing to crack a four-way handshake. It was built in a time when doing enterprise-grade authentication and encryption in a coffee shop was an undue burden. But times change. So essentially what you're looking at is they're going to start encrypting the handshakes so that they're a little bit less likely to get broken. And I say less likely, but not impossible, because nothing's impossible when you have enough compute resources. The other thing they're going to do, and this is kind of one of those duh moments, they're going to start doing brute force protection. So if you try to brute force a password, it will eventually lock you out. And if you say duh, remember that we didn't get brute force protection in Windows until Windows 2000. So yeah, that's not.
Still, that to me seems like the most table stakes of like protections. But okay, so we have Blocking, yeah, too many failed brute force protection. We have the coffee shop problem, providing individualized data encryption on open networks. We have a new 192-bit security suite. Basically, that's kind of up to the standards of the Committee on National Security Systems. And then the other one I had that was kind of interesting was easing configuration for devices without a display. Basically, the IoT, hey, this thing was invented and we didn't have it 14 years ago problem is for, one, this isn't going to hit probably most consumer devices that are already out there. I don't know how many wireless chip makers are going to be rolling out updates to add WPA3 support. But I do feel like every coffee shop in the world should go buy a new router as soon as these come out, just to avoid any kind of liability problems.
Yeah, and we've still got to get to the point where the chipsets and the laptops support WPA3, which hopefully should be able to be pushed by a software update. But realistically speaking, the devices that are on your wall or under your desk right now that are IoT based, that don't have a screen, by the time WPA3 rolls out, you're going to want to buy a new one anyway. Nest is going to have a slightly faster, slightly cooler thermostat that you're going to want to buy. I don't know that this is really going to have that much of an effect, though, and it's for the same reason that most Wi-Fi devices don't have 5 gigahertz radios instead of 2.4. It's all cost. If it costs me 45 cents to add WPA3 support to my chipset that I'm throwing into everything I can think of, yeah, 45 cents ain't a whole lot. Times 14 million. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. That's not an inconsequential cost.
Other than the brute force protection, do you see anything that would be a big boon to an enterprise? I mean, other than, okay, handshakes are a little harder to get through. Brute force protection. Is there anything critical, I guess, for the modern enterprise mobility?
Not really. And, I understand that using the 192-bit encryption suite is great and it's standardized. But at one point, the federal government thought that DES was a good data standard for encryption. So this is just this is advancing the conversation along until we can get somewhere a little bit more secure. And honestly, I mean, this is very evolutionary. I don't know how you can make this any more secure, because this is the setup process. Yeah, once everything gets encrypted, everything's great. But yeah, they weren't attacking the encryption; they were attacking the setup process.
Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing bad in the spec though, from everything I'm seeing. But like you said, baby steps.
Baby steps. Yeah.
And then the other big news coming out in the wake of the Spectre vulnerabilities, meltdown vulnerabilities, is Microsoft kind of came out. We're seeing a lot of rollout of the patches for various platforms. Apple's updated. I think Windows has already released updates for 41 of the 45 supported version of Windows. Yes, Microsoft maintains 45 versions of Windows, supports 45 versions of Windows. But we saw some interesting communication from Terry Myerson, who's the VP in head of basically Windows at Microsoft, and kind of going over some of the performance impacts and recommendations that Microsoft has for everybody. So I just kind of want to go over these really quick. On Skylake and newer CPUs, Intel CPUs, Skylake, Kaby Lake, Coffee Lake that's going to be coming out on Windows 10. Probably most users aren't going to notice anything on Windows. You're going to see single percentage performance change, maybe a few milliseconds more latency. For most workloads on a consumer level, you're probably not going to see a lot of change. Older CPUs, however, when you're getting into Haswell and older, basically any Intel processor going back 10 years or more, on Windows 10, 8, and 7, you're going to actually see noticeable double-digit decreases in performance, really making me super happy to go update my old Acer laptop that I have lying around whenever I need to run a Windows app. But the really interesting news, I thought, was on the Windows Server front. And unsurprisingly, considering that they're doing a lot of kernel isolation, they're clearing out, the virtual memory lookup tables from, having to do a whole clear out whenever you're going to do a kernel task from your user space task. All IO intensive tasks on Windows Server will see significant performance loss. And really, Microsoft didn't have much of an answer other than to say, hey, you need to evaluate where you need to isolate untrusted code and where you need to prioritize performance. And you as a business need to make that decision. I guess it's not unsurprising. There's really not a lot of way to get around that. At the same time, that seems to open up a decent amount of liability for Microsoft in that perspective. The one interesting thing I did see, though, Obviously, for basically this was the recommendation for on-premises servers, and if you're running Hyper-V locally. However, Azure, no, you don't need to do anything. There's no choice to make. So it would be interesting to see if Microsoft used this as an opportunity to really push Azure services and really any other public cloud provider, being like, hey, we're going to deal with this headache. This is a giant pain in the butt for us. But if you're in the cloud, you don't need to worry about untrusted code, trusted code, and necessarily performance degradation.
Well, you don't have to worry about it right now, because what we did is secretly throw another CPU core at it behind the scenes to make it look like it's running the same speed. And oh, by the way, we're going to be raising our prices next year just a little bit, because we've had some unintended side effects from material problems in the technology community. And basically, we're going to make you pay for it one way or the other. I'm not thrilled about it. I have a very old Core 2 quad sitting at my desk. I don't even know if it's possible to get good performance out of it after this patch, but I also know that the other opportunity to have people write JavaScript code in my browser that will, steal my passwords or what have you is, everybody's going to suck after this. There's no way around it. So at least we're all sucking equally at this point.
Is it a Q6600, Tom, or
9550. I bought the best quad 2, the best quad I could find, and it has hummed happily along, doing little to nothing.
This may change one of my favorite updates. Whenever Intel puts out a new architecture, CPU architecture, Tom's Hardware or someone will run. Does a Core i3 of this architecture beat a Core i7 Gen 2 processor? And usually the answer is still no. But, thanks to Spectre and Meltdown, we may be getting there sooner than later.
Yep.
That just about does it for the Gestalt IT Rundown. Kind of an interesting week. I think a lot of companies lying low, still kind of a New Year hangover, and no one wants to get overtaken by CES. If you want to see really crazy mesh routers, I highly recommend you check out First Alert, which will send you fire alarms on all Wi-Fi connected displays. And also Amazon Echo integration for all your devices. I can't wait for the coming apocalypse that's going to cause whenever there's some horrible vulnerability found in Amazon voice services, and everyone is walking into every business, and every device that they have has Alexa on it.
No, I think this is going to cause a huge shift in our generation. If everything is enabled for Amazon speaking speakers, no one will be named Alex, Alexa, or Alexander ever again.
That's very true. And we just made someone mad because we activated. Did you just? Yes. Look what you did, Tom. Look what you did. Okay. Oh, wait. No, never mind. Also, evidently, Cortana's dead because Microsoft can't do anything relevant anymore, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time with more of your IT news of the week. Remember, check out gestaltit.com for more IT coverage from across the enterprise, and subscribe to the On-Premise IT Roundtable in iTunes or your podcatcher of choice for a bi-weekly look, or is it, I don't know, every 2 weeks we post an episode. It's a deep dive. It's a roundtable. It's awesome. Tom, anything you want to plug?
No, I think we've got a couple of great things coming up that you should be taking aware of. We're doing something really cool with Viptela, the SD-WAN company. We've got a special panel that we're going to be doing for their Future WAN Summit. It's going to be in a couple of weeks. It's going to be on Tuesday, the 22nd. No, Tuesday the 23rd. Days are getting away from me. If you want to get a little bit more info about this, if you head over to gestaltit.com, we've got a post that I wrote about the future of SD-WAN, and there's a registration link that you can hit that will go there. It's completely free. Just sign up and learn about SD-WAN. It's pretty cool. And then we've got a great lineup of presenters at Networking Field Day in 2 weeks. If you haven't been paying attention, Cisco, Juniper, VMware, Thousand Eyes, Extreme Networks, and now Mellanox, Cumulus Networks, and Ixia. We have a very full event. You are going to want to, in fact, you should probably take the week off before so that you can get enough sleep, because you're going to be drinking from an information fire hose that you will not want to stop.
That is awesome stuff coming up. That's at techfieldday.com, or subscribe to their YouTube channel to see all of their videos. Really cool stuff. And they'll be streaming that live also as well. So that's very exciting. Also, Tom, SD-WAN, that stands for Super Duper WAN.
Yes.
Right?
We'll go with that for now.
Okay. That sounds better than software defined. So until next time we meet, thank you for watching, and have a super sparkly day.